Okay, so welcome to our Meet the Designer interview with Vicky Gorey of Vera and Bess. Just a little bit of Zoom housekeeping rules. We are asking those of you that are watching to please mute yourselves and turn your videos off. The call is being recorded. I'll be handing over to Helen Free in just a moment as she will be asking the questions to Vicky Gorey. So over to you, Helen.
Hello, Vicky.
Hi.
Right, I've not done this before, okay, so this will be fun.
I haven't done this before either, so
we can learn together.
yes.
Right, so how long ago did you learn to knit and crochet? Because I know you knit as well, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Knitting was first, actually, when I was probably still quite a young child. Both my grandmas knitted, and my mum and my aunt, so there was always yarn around, so I learned to knit. And then sewing took over. That was my first real craft love. And then about 10 years ago, I was talking to my next door neighbour and I said, I'd love to crochet, but I can't. And she looked at me and said, that's ridiculous. You can do all these other crafts. You can absolutely crochet. And having over the years looked at magazines, looked at books, she showed me, and in 2 minutes, just watching her hands, I got it. And it just took over. I still knit, I still sew, but crochet is first.
Yeah, it does tend to have that effect on you.
Yeah.
Yes. So how did you get into designing?
In my head, I could see a blanket that I wanted to make. And I searched and searched and searched and couldn't find a pattern that came anywhere near what I could see in my head. So I thought, well, I'll just have to make it up then. And it was this blanket, actually, the Hearts and Flowers blanket.
Yeah, that one's rather pretty, yes.
It is pretty. So it's lots of hexagons with, I think there's about 6 different flowers and a heart centre. And after I'd made the first couple, because I needed to make more than one of each one, I was writing it down as I was going along. And not long after I'd made it, someone said to me, well, you know, you've written the pattern. Have you thought about selling the pattern? So I went through all the processes of testing and writing it up and photographing it, put it up on Ravelry, and then I realised I was a designer. That was what I was doing. I was a beginner, and I've learned loads since then. And that was probably one of my more complex designs that I put out there first.
So
I'm not very good at following instructions, recipes, sewing patterns, knitting patterns. It's unusual for me to kind of not go off piste.
Right. Somebody did tell me once that patterns are to be used as guidelines.
Absolutely. And yes, that is definitely how I use them.
Right. So how does your design process usually start, and what inspires you?
Different things. Sometimes you can see 3 colours put together and think, oh my goodness, I have to make something with those 3 colours because they look so beautiful. Or so this blanket, this is Old Romance. Yeah. So I had a picture that I bought in a charity shop. You know those kind of old-fashioned vintagey colours, huge flowers in intricate little vases and pots, and the colours are so beautiful. So that was what inspired that one. But then sometimes I put a wrap on yesterday for work, this one, and I looked at it and I thought, well, that's just crochet motifs. So yeah, you can imagine what my next project, not that I don't have a list of ideas that I want to work on, but you just see something and your brain goes, you know, you could make that into a crochet pattern. You can't help it. Everything you see in life has you go, ping, another idea.
Yes. So what is your most popular design?
It would probably be one of the shawl patterns that I designed using the Cheppy as well. I think any whirl pattern, just people love them. They love the whirls. It's so easy. All the colours are there, and one whirl will make pretty much any shawl you want it to make, and it will be a nice size. So they're probably my best sellers. But my favourite, I have lots of favourites. Doing this Meet the Designer has made me look at all the things I've designed over time, and I'm like, oh, I forgot about that, and that one's so lovely. But I guess the two that I most love would be two shawls, and it's this one, which is the Holcombe Bay shawl.
Yeah.
And I just love the colours. And then this one, which is the Norfolk striped shawl.
Yeah.
And they just go with everything in my wardrobe. I can throw them on, quite often wear them out for work or just around my neck if I'm going out and it's cold. Yeah.
So is designing your day job?
No, it was for a while because I was at home with the children. So I guess even then it wasn't really, but it was the work that I was doing. But I went back to work last September. So my day job now, I work for a small publishing company.
Well, that's interesting.
It is. It's really varied. My job title is production coordinator, and that it's project management basically. I receive, as soon as we bring an author into our company, I'm the person that looks after everything that's going to happen until the book is ready for publication. So I deal with proofreaders, authors, editors, amenders, cover designers, the whole, it's so varied, and I absolutely love it. And the people I work with are fabulous.
It's just another form of designing, really, isn't it?
It kind of is, and I love that side of it. We do have designers who design the covers, but I can have as much input as I like. So I prepare the brief for the cover designer. The downside is that means I spend a lot of time on websites like Waterstones, checking out what the trends are in the market, what colours are being used, layouts, fonts, all that. So I am forever adding to my wish list of books because I'm just constantly seeing all the books that are coming out. And I should say as well, I'm really, really lucky that I work in an office that is really spacious, that all of us have almost as much space each as a small bedroom, you know, that we can be socially distant, we can be completely safe. And I know loads of people that's not the case, but it's so nice to go out to work and it's normal. So yes. It's been brilliant.
So where have we got here? What's your favourite colour scheme when it comes to your designing?
I think I tend towards more muted colours. Definitely coastal colours I like to use a lot, and blues. That said, maybe 2 years ago, if you'd asked me my favourite colour, I would have said, oh, blue, any shade of blue. But today I'm wearing pink. And I don't think I've ever owned a pink jumper in my life before. I bought it fairly recently. So I think I just love colours, as long as they work together, as long as it's harmonious. If it makes me smile when colours are put together, then that's just brilliant.
Right. So how would you describe your design style?
Oh my goodness. I don't know if I have a style. I think I design easy patterns generally. There might be a couple that are a bit more complicated, but I think almost all of my patterns, a confident beginner could make their first shawl or their first blanket. They're kind of accessible. I guess I'm a bit vintage inspired. So I like vintage shapes. I like the 50s in particular. I like the shape of cardigans, that kind of thing. But I don't know if that's a style as such. I think probably most designers would say the inside of their head is like a bag of pick and mix.
Yeah.
And it's never quiet in there. There's always a new idea. And sometimes I keep a notepad and pen by my bed, because in that 5 minutes just before I go to sleep, most nights I get an idea, and I have a notebook full of just strange scribblings. But I guess we're affected by what we see, what we hear, what's going on. So it really is, it's a pick and mix.
Definitely. What are your favourite yarns or fibres to work with?
Ooh. My tastes have grown more expensive, I think, since I started out, definitely.
I think that happens to pretty much all of us.
I think so. I think you start out with budget yarns, and you can get them in such beautiful colours that you kind of, it's unlimited, really. But then I'd say now I love hand-dyed yarn. I think I probably tend towards sock yarn more than anything. I like cotton as well. I can't work with lamb's wool or mohair or cashmere because it makes me itch, and I find that even just working with it makes my hands sore, which is such a shame, because I feel like there's so much beautiful yarn that I could use if I didn't have that problem. But I use a lot of superwash merino because that removes all of the itchy things.
Is it the lanolin then?
I don't know. I can't wear lamb's wool, but I can wear superwash merino. So I'm kind of testing out other superwash wools that I can find, because I think that seems to do the trick. But I use a lot of 4-ply now. I like a finer finish, although if I'm feeling impatient, I will go for a slightly thicker yarn. But yeah, I guess so. I have a bit of a problem. I have like I have a mini skein. My name's Vicky, and I'm a mini skein addict.
I have seen, yes, lots of posts of yours related to mini skeins. So yes, I can.
Yeah, it is a terrible habit, and I am trying to use them to make scrappy blankets, or I have an ongoing project of an ombre mini skein blanket, which is absolutely beautiful, and it's lovely. Every month I get the next 5 mini skeins and I add to it. And every month my youngest daughter looks at me and says, "Mummy, it's so beautiful. What will you do with it?" And my reply is, "You already have 6 of my blankets on your bed, so this is mine."
So how would you describe your stash then?
Some of it's hidden. It's in various places around the house, because there are 5 of us in the family and it's a 3-bedroomed house. So I stick it wherever I can find the space in a basket. It's quite mixed. I have lots of, I think when you first start doing crochet or knitting or any kind of craft, you don't buy as much as you need. So you might see a beautiful yarn and you'll buy 1 skein of it. But then when you come to use it, you actually need 4 skeins of it. So I have a lot of that from kind of years ago in my stash. But it is varied. I do have some budget yarns, which I'm trying to use at the moment to make things that I might wear or use. And then lots and lots and lots of mini skeins and larger skeins of sock yarn as well, and a couple of whirls, because you have to have a couple of whirls in your stash.
Oh, you definitely do.
Yes. My stash is not as lovely as yours, though, and I'm very jealous that your stash is a shop.
Well, you are welcome to come and stroke my stash anytime you want to.
Yes, and I definitely will, as soon as we're allowed to do that.
Right. So, what's your favourite technique? And is there one you would like to learn?
I think I like raised stitches. I like texture. So I think if I had a favourite, it would be that. I use a lot of front post, back post, trebles and double trebles, because I just love how that looks. Other than that, I'll mixing stitches. I like mixed stitches as well, although I do like just basic trebles, granny stitches. I find that very soothing. To learn, I did try Tunisian crochet and really didn't like it the first time I tried it, but I do love how it looks. So I think I need to sit down and try again.
I know where you're coming from with that. I didn't like it the first time I did it. But when I tried it later on, I used a different type of hook and I just fell in love with it.
I'll have to try that again then, because I guess I thought, well, I can knit, and lots of Tunisian crochet looks like knitting, so I could just knit. But it feels like a gap for me. I need to know how to do it, and I need to be comfortable doing it. And I think maybe, I just used the wrong yarn and hook. So
quite possibly.
I'll find out from you later.
Right.
What to start with and go from there.
Okay. How many whips do you have?
Have I really got to answer that?
Yes. I have to answer it, so you have.
I think it's probably north of 10.
Right.
I have some. I think it's acceptable to have up to 5, because depending on how you're feeling, you will pick up something different to work on. And I've got the mini skein blanket that's ongoing anyway, so maybe that doesn't even count as a work in process, because I don't have to knit a lot of yarn for it yet. So I have a blanket, a shawl design. Yeah, there's lots and lots. But I'd say maybe 3 that I work on regularly.
Right. So which one's the oldest?
I don't think any are that old, actually. I'd say probably none of them are more than 2 years old, which I think is probably quite good. Although I have gone through a bit of I had a reorganisation in my lounge, and that brought lots of things to light. So I frogged a lot of things, because I looked at them and I thought, I don't like that anymore, or it wasn't working anyway. So a lot of the older stuff, I just thought, I am never going to finish that. Never. So let's get full value out of the yarn, frog it, wind it up again, and use it for something else.
Right. Very sensible. Unlike me. What is your biggest crochet or knitting bugbear?
Ooh. I don't know. Definitely, I agree with you when people ask me how my knitting's going. And I have also been knitting and been asked how my crochet was going. I guess to some people it all looked the same, but I think, how can you not tell? There's 1 hook, 2 needles, the stitches look different. I'm running out of yarn.
Yes.
I think we live in fear of that. I think what we're doing when we buy yarn is actually protecting ourselves from the stress caused by worrying about running out of yarn.
It's definitely a real stress, that.
Yes. That's what I tell my husband anyway.
So which designers do you admire?
The simple answer is all of them. Anyone that takes the time to pull that thing out of their head and make it and explain how to make it. It's difficult. And the more complex your design is, like some of yours are really quite intricate and complex, that's a huge skill to be able to do that. My patterns are really simple and often very repetitive, so you know, it's not as tricky as patterns that you design. And I think anyone that designs those more intricate patterns, I'm in awe, absolutely. I really like Janie Crow too. I love how she puts motifs together and the colours that she chooses.
Yes, she does seem to have a knack, doesn't she?
Yeah, the colours and the photography as well. You know, just it's beautiful.
Have you got any plans for the future?
Crochet plans always. I did start making a list of things that I'd started and things in my head. That was a bit scary to do that. I am currently working on a Christmas blanket, but obviously it's the middle of November, so it might be next year's Christmas blanket. Or maybe I'll make it in a different colour and then it can be an all year round blanket. Yeah, I have loads of ideas to keep designing, but obviously my time is more limited now. And I do also like to have a knitting thing on the go. So some weeks I feel like crochet, some weeks I don't. Some weeks I want something really easy.
So have you thought of designing knitting?
I have, but knitting takes so much longer than crochet. That's what I find. I think crochet, anything you crochet is quicker than anything you knit. It uses up more yarn, definitely crochet, I think, compared to the amount of yarn you would use for a knitted piece of the same size. And I don't think I have the passion for knitting to design. In fact, the thing I'm knitting at the moment, I am actually following the pattern exactly. So I just don't think I have that spark, that desire to do it.
Right. So do you have any tips for anybody who's thinking of becoming a designer?
Do it, but make sure before you do it, before you make even the first stitch, that you either have a notebook and pen or a pencil, which is often better because you use less paper because you can rub things out constantly, or a laptop setup, or some way of writing down everything you do from that first stitch, because I promise you, you think you're going to remember exactly what you did to create that beautiful hexagon motif, but you won't. You absolutely won't. And you have to write it down backwards as you unpick round after round to figure out what you did.
Yes, definitely. I think we've all been there as designers, haven't we?
Yeah, yes. It's an early lesson.
Yes. Yes, the amount of times I've sort of reverse engineered a pattern. Yeah. Yes. Your favourite novelty yarn?
Ooh. Probably I have I don't know what it's called, but it's Shepia's and it's gold coloured with metallic thread running through it as well. And that's, I'm not really a sparkly kind of a girl. I don't like sequins and shiny and sparkly, but in the right place, it's perfect. And the Christmas blanket I'm working on, it's gorgeous pinks and aquas, white, and that gold yarn is just perfect with it. So at the moment, that is my favourite novelty yarn.
Right. I think that's everything that I've got written down here.
Well, thank you, Helen. That was brilliant. I really enjoyed that.
Well, thank you for doing it. It's a shame we couldn't do it in the shop. But,
well, you know, next year.
Fingers crossed.